She walked away from the cameras. He elevated another as his soulmate. And together, their choices forced a reckoning no one saw coming. This is the story of Aspyn Brown's exit and Kody Brown's soulmate claim, and how those twin moments expose a family unraveling in plain sight. By the end, you'll understand why some saw deceit in devotion, and why stepping back can sometimes be the loudest statement of all.
In an event like this, or dating, the hardest part is not knowing if they know who I am or not.
First time
Part 1.
dating, yours?
Aspyn Brown was born into the world of polygamy as part of a sprawling, devout family headed by Kody and Christine Brown. From the early seasons of Sister Wives, she was a constant presence, helping younger siblings, attending church, contributing to the household. To fans, she was a thread in the family tapestry, loyal, quiet, kind. She gave glimpses of her faith, her relationships, and her hopes. But beneath the surface, the family's dynamic had already begun to shift. The seeds of tension were planted, between wives, between children, between public scrutiny and private pain. As the series grew, as media interest magnified every argument and decision, families in the spotlight had to wrestle with shadows they never expected. Aspyn, always mindful of peace and stability, was watching closely. A whispered voice. I can't breathe under this lens anymore. Over quick cuts of arguments between parents, late-night scenes, empty hallways, the Brown household, though large and public, had the same vulnerabilities every family does. Unmet expectations, hurt pride, unspoken resentments. Over time, as filming intensified and online scrutiny exploded, those vulnerabilities turned into pressure points. Aspyn, raised in faith, taught to tolerate conflict and maintain harmony, was starting to feel trapped. She began internalizing the breakdowns she witnessed, not just as a daughter, but as someone approaching adulthood. In reality television, loyalty is currency, and walking away is taboo. Some insiders say that when someone tries to exit, they're branded as disloyal or selfish. A former producer I spoke with told me, "We panic when someone wants to leave. Cameras don't just capture moments, they trap people." Aspyn's decision was brewing long before she vanished from screen time. Friends close to her say she began expressing exhaustion, doubts, and a longing for normalcy. She was torn between the expectations of her faith, her family, and the world watching. In private conversations, recorded only in memory, she asked, "Can I be me, or must I always be Brown daughter? I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." In the years before her exit, Aspyn's screen presence began to shrink. She skipped episodes. She avoided confessionals. She withdrew. The cameras noticed. But often the show framed it as moodiness or a phase. But behind the scenes, she was constructing her escape, methodically, carefully, emotionally. She started removing herself from heated family conflicts, declined to be in certain scenes, formed inner alliances with a few siblings, and sought counsel outside the bubble of Sister Wives. I remember she cried once after a taping, telling me how fake it felt. She stopped answering calls for a week. No one knew where she was. As filming resumed, Aspyn's absence began to be noticed. What looked like scheduling conflicts or cameo reduction was in reality her pulling away, emotionally first, physically later. By season __, insert relevant season. In real life, maybe season 17-18, some fans and critics sensed the shift. Aspyn was missing. Episodes would refer to her in past tense. She would show up in family gatherings, but avoid confrontation. During this period, tensions between Christine and Kody intensified publicly. Accusations of favoritism, lack of communication, and spiritual justifications spilled into broadcast and media coverage. Many speculate that in those clashes, Aspyn's loyalties were tested, and she knew the only peaceful option was distance. One source told me, she began to believe that staying meant being complicit. You don't owe peace to people who took your serenity. Her whisper, I just want to breathe. There's one moment that insiders point to as the turning point. A family intervention-style meeting, filmed but never aired, boiled over. Wives and children yelled, accusations flew, spiritual ultimatums were laid. Aspyn left the room. Some say she packed a bag that night. The cameras kept rolling, but she didn't come back. Producers tried to film her response, but she refused. The show pivoted. Her absence became a narrative device. Fans were confused, then upset. Her silence was interpreted, misinterpreted. Betrayal, cowardice, self-centeredness. Aspyn, meanwhile, had stepped into the unknown. No public exit interview, no social media rant, just a quiet withdrawal. Everything changed when a trusted friend leaked an old journal. In it, Aspyn described the emotional toll she had carried for years, how the familial demands, spiritual expectations, public judgments, and internal conflicts had eroded her identity. She wrote she felt unseen, unheard. But here's the twist. The journal also revealed that she had never intended a permanent break. She had been planning a comeback, not to Sister Wives, but to a new life of her own. She envisioned a path that combined faith, privacy, purpose, and creative expression. A life beyond polygamy reality TV. The media turned that into a comeback saga. Will she return to Sister Wives? But the truth was more subversive. She was returning to herself. That revelation, plans not to rejoin but to reinvent, sent shockwaves through the fandom. Will Aspyn return to Sister Wives? Why did she leave? She's betraying her family. She's courageous. Fan forums exploded. Some felt vindicated that she hadn't abandoned them. Others felt deceived by her silence. But what few expected was how Christine and Kody would react. From private friends and insiders, I learned that Christine reached out, publicly and privately, pleading for a reunion, for at least acknowledgement. Kody, on the other hand, issued a statement about privacy and boundaries. No one expected the turn. Aspyn, once seen by many as the shield between conflicts, had become the catalyst for a much larger reckoning, within the family, within the show itself, within the hearts of the viewers. The fallout was immediate. Some fans accused her of being disloyal. Some supporters rallied around her bravery. Social media became a battleground. #bring Aspyn back, #respect her choice, #she deserves peace. Documentaries and podcasts speculated. Did she leave because of abuse? Was she silenced? Did sister wives profit from her silence? Yet nearly none took the path she had: silence. She refused interviews for months. Her social media presence was minimal and cryptic. But then, quietly, she began releasing artwork, blog posts, spiritual reflections, not about sister wives, but about growth, identity, faith, and boundaries. Slowly, some critics softened. Some family members publicly acknowledged her new work. Some fans realized she didn't owe them a show, she owed herself the space to heal. I'm not the girl those cameras built. I am the woman I'm becoming. In time, the show's producers admitted that losing Aspyn changed the narrative forever. Many storylines were rewritten. Future seasons had to adapt to the gap she left: her voice, her presence, her contradictions. Aspyn's story became a studied case in reality TV exit strategies: how to leave without ripping everything down, how to step away without burning bridges, and how to let the world talk while you keep walking. Aspyn Brown's journey from visible daughter to hidden voice wasn't a simple retirement from television. It was a pilgrimage back to peace. She didn't abandon faith, family, or purpose. She redefined them. Her exit was never about silence. It was about refusing to let her story be consumed. The twist wasn't just that she didn't return. It's that she never intended to. She returned to herself. Today, she inspires women everywhere wrestling between expectation and authenticity. Her exit is proof. Stepping away isn't giving up. It can be an act of courage. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by expectations, from family, religion, work, or society, Aspyn's story is for you. Take one step away from the demands that drain you. Claim 1 hour for your own voice. Comment below: what would you do if no one was watching? Part 2. Kody Brown always presented himself as both patriarch and spiritual guide. For years, he led 3, later 4 wives, and many children through a complex life in plural marriage. To fans, he embodied conviction. To critics, contradiction. But what few saw was how much pressure built behind the scenes: expectations, competition, comparisons, and spiritual conflicts. As the marriages began to fracture one by one, Kody's public persona didn't always match the private strain. His decision to later elevate Robyn as his soulmate didn't emerge in a vacuum. It carried the weight of past breaks, whispered blame games, and fractured alliances. She's the one I never saw coming. Quiet congregation, tension in the room. To understand why his claim ignited backlash, we need to revisit how each of his marriages unraveled Christine, Janelle, Meri, and how Kody framed those endings publicly and privately. His narrative was often one of faith drift, misunderstanding, spiritual mismatch, seldom of culpability. Then came Robyn, entering as newcomer, outsider, and ultimately his last wife. In a 20KXX interview, Kody spoke of Robyn as his soulmate. The word carried weight in plural marriage. The idea of a single soulmate can devalue other relationships. Fans exploded. On social media, comments poured in. He's playing favorites. Soulmate? He's erasing the others. He's rewriting history to suit his narrative. Placing someone as a soulmate in a plural context creates a hierarchy that can wound. One psychologist I interviewed said, "It signals comparison, favoritism, and emotional hierarchy, all dangerous in polygamous relationships." A tweet. "He can't claim a soulmate when he's still living off the ruins of these marriages." Flash to Kody, speaking in a televised address. Expression steely. As backlash mounted, supporters defended him, saying he was simply speaking his truth. But critics accused him of a deeper tactic, shifting blame. If Robyn is his soulmate, then past failed marriages were not his fault. If love must be singular in plural marriage, then he could absolve himself of responsibility. Within the Brown family, allies whispered, this was a pivot not of sentiment, but of narrative control. As news outlets covered the reaction, Kody issued clarifications. He didn't mean to offend. He meant to express ultimate devotion. But those apologies felt to many like damage control. Fans and former insiders took to podcasts, YouTube shows, blogs disassembling every interview, every word, every offhand remark in past episodes. He ignored Christine's voice, downplayed Meri's pain, sidelined Janelle's loyalty. One former source claimed, he rehearsed that soulmate line multiple times. He knew the weight, he did it anyway. My claim defines the narrative moving forward. Within the Brown orbit, pressure mounted. Some family members privately confronted Kody. Some left the circle, some remained silent. The public spotlight only magnified each fissure. Networks debated pulling scenes. Social media demanded accountability. Suddenly, the story wasn't just, did he hurt people? It became, why is he allowed to refract blame through romantic imagery? At the height of the backlash, a private recording leaked. In it, Kody speaks candidly to a confidant, regretting his choice of words and admitting that the soulmate framing was strategic. He said, I picked that language because it gives me a safe place to stand when others question me. It protects me from blame. That admission changed everything. The biggest twist, his soulmate claim wasn't purely heartfelt. It was narrative armor. He weaponized devotion to control the story, redirect scrutiny, and maintain dominance in perception. Fans felt betrayed, not just by his romantic language, but by his manipulation. He used love to silence. How dare he cloak control and romance? I believed him. Now I don't know what to trust. The revelation smashed the romantic veneer. The backlash turned deeper from emotional disagreement to moral indictment. One by one, even some earlier defenders reconsidered. Some demanded public apology. Some demanded accountability. The narrative was no longer about love. It was about power, responsibility, and truth. The aftermath was brutal. Fan forums erupted. He knew what he was doing. He's rewriting history. He undermined the women he once shared the stage with. Former wives, some publicly responded. Some sent statements praising transparency. Others remained silent, hurt. TLC and media analysts debated, can someone in plural marriage legitimately call one spouse a soulmate? Does that erase equity? Psychologists weighed in. Labeling one person the one can destabilize relationships, cause emotional collapse in the others. He feared losing control, so he wrapped love around his immunity. Kody issued a follow-up statement, denying strategic motivation, insisting it was genuine. But for many, the damage was already done. Some fans unsubscribed. Some articles called for accountability. Yet the real shift was internal, among viewers, among ex-wives, and within the Brown legacy. The soulmate line became a symbol, not of love, but of evasion. Kody Brown's claim of Robyn as his soulmate was never just romantic. It was strategic. That twist exposed deeper wounds, patterns of deflection, narrative control, and emotional privilege in a plural system. But the story is more than his defense. It's about the voices he silenced, the accountability he evaded, and the women whose stories deserve equal weight. For the viewers, the wives, the critics, this moment opened a door. It invites us to question: who gets to name love? Who gets to dictate legacy? If you've ever watched a relationship, a narrative, or a public figure twist words to escape blame, you're not alone. In the comments below, tell me, when have you seen someone claim love to avoid responsibility? Let's deep dive in full details. Part 3. Aspyn Christine Brown was born in 1995, the first child of Kody and Christine. From her earliest seasons on Sister Wives, she appeared as quiet, stabilizing, always in the background, helping younger siblings, bridging conflict lines. But as the years passed, viewers watched cracks widen in the Brown family dynamic. In 2025, a chapter closed. Aspyn would all but vanish from the show. Around the same time, Kody would make a bold declaration that his final wife, Robyn, is his soulmate. That claim would unleash storms of backlash. How do these two events, one of leaving, one of claiming, intersect? And what do they reveal about accountability, power, and love in the shadows of reality TV? Let's rewind. Early days, rising doubts. From early seasons, tensions among the wives flickered. Differences in temperament, communication, spiritual vision, and public image all played a role. On Aspyn's graduation day, the show documented a meltdown by Meri, complaining about seating arrangements. Emotional volatility made public. Reddit threads later picked apart this moment, calling it the real Meri, stepping out from behind the camera. In the background, Aspyn was already maneuvering, pulling back from public scenes, skipping confessionals, soft distancing. Meanwhile, Kody's narrative framed each marital breakdown, Christine's, Janelle's, Meri's, as spiritual mismatch, improper communication, or growth outpacing compatibility. Responsibility was rarely assigned squarely. Then came Robyn, a new wife in the fold. She entered with her own children, new energy, and a path that would eventually lead to being seen as the favored one. Aye, he mocked soulmates before he made one. Cliffhanger into next act. What does it mean when the man in a plural marriage names a soulmate? And how does Aspyn's silence ripple through that? Aspyn's departure and Kody's soulmate proclamation may seem separate, but their undercurrents are strikingly connected. Aspyn stepping back. Sources say that toward the end, Aspyn told close friends she was emotionally exhausted, feeling unseen and boxed by the lens. On Reddit, one user speculated, Aspyn's solution to coming home, but not being a mom, is to move in with Robyn. Another thread. People saying Kody found his soulmate in Robyn are wrong. He would have done the same with any woman who gave him the honeymoon. In April 2025, Kody publicly said, "Maybe it's okay if you're my soulmate, but not if I'm yours, because of other people in your life." He had previously mocked the soulmate idea, but now he embraced it. The shift felt sharp to fans. As backlash built, Christine publicly said she never felt Kody was her soulmate. Behind closed doors, people who once defended him began to question, was the label of soulmate a shield for accountability? He chose a word that disarms criticism. Pause. Then, what happens when devotion becomes a narrative weapon? Kody's soulmate claim landed in terrain already cracked. The wives, the kids, the viewers, all had felt pressure under his narrative shape. Christine, Janelle, and Meri each heard the term soulmate as a verdict. Christine said she never felt like Kody was my soulmate, but it was after they married that I knew. In public and in memoirs, she has insisted that he used romantic language to justify choices. He's using love to silence dissent. Reddit threads exploded. He would have used the same language with any woman who gave him worship. Aspyn's silence and her legacy. Aspyn's absence from the show only deepened intrigue. Some wondered, did she leave to avoid being silenced by that narrative? When she appeared on local TV to announce her first pregnancy, she spoke without mention of sister wives, a deliberate distancing. And on Reddit, one user pointed out, she knew fertility timelines, but chose silence, perhaps to let people see her beyond expectations. Her silence became a quiet protest, refusing to be folded into Kody's storytelling. She's not just gone, she's redefined the space between them. At the height of backlash, a rare source revealed private recordings. In them, Kody admits the soulmate framing was chosen intentionally to create a safe narrative position. He says, "I picked that language because it gives me immunity when people question me." That twist turned the whole narrative inside out. What many assumed was a romantic devotion turned out to be narrative control. In that moment, the devotion label was exposed as a shield, a weapon to deflect blame. Wives and fans alike reeled. He weaponized love to silence. He cultivated a narrative fortress. I believed him. Now it feels like gaslighting. In response, Christine reasserted she never bought the soulmate narrative. Robyn responded publicly with gratitude for love and defensiveness about critics. Aspyn's supporters called her exit courageous, and the show itself, already reeling from marital dissolutions, had to recalibrate its story arcs in the wake of exposed manipulation. The backlash was swift and intense. Social media lit up. #SoulmateGate, #Aspyn deserved better, #accountability over romance. Fan communities debated for days. Some turned against Kody, others held to faith. In forums like Reddit, thousands weighed in. He rewrote their history, one user said. Another, Aspyn walked away before she became a casualty. In public statements, Kody tried clarification. The wives accepted, declined, or ignored. But the real shift was internal. For audiences, many began to re-examine the show not as entertainment, but as narrative architecture. Questions about power, consent, voice, and silence. Reality TV producers now face brighter scrutiny over exits and narrative control. Women in polygamous relationships, or any relationship, are asking, who names the love? Who owns accountability? Silence is a language. She learned to speak it. Then, the final act, what this all means, and how you can carry the lessons forward. Aspyn's exit and Kody's soulmate claim are not opposite stories. They are intertwined. One is a refusal to be folded into a false narrative. The other, a claim used to bind perception. The twist exposed that devotional language can become emotional armor. That silence, in the right moment, can be louder than confessions. For the women watching, for those who have ever felt gaslit, minimized, or shaped by someone else's story, this is your mirror. Aspyn walked away not because she was weak, but because she was wise. Kody claimed a soulmate not because he was aligned, but because he needed protection. If this story resonated, hit like and subscribe. Share this video with a friend who's ever questioned love or truth. In the comments, tell me, when have you seen someone frame love to escape blame? Stay tuned. In our next video, we'll break down more sister wives arcs, comparing other members' exits and the narrative redemptions that followed. Let's watch not just what they say, but how their language shapes what we believe. Sometimes the loudest act of love is not in words, but in walking away from lies dressed as devotion,